You guys, Nintendo had us in the palm of their hand. The Switch 2 was looking like a straight up W. 1080p, 120 FPS, 4K output at 60 FPS when docked. Hell, I heard you can even do 120 Hz even at 2K resolution. A Kirby Air Ride sequel? People were going crazy. But now, we've got one of the craziest pre-launch twists in recent memory. Your pre-orders are delayed. The community, divided. And the hype, well, at this point, it's basically hanging by a thread. And it's all because of one thing, the price. This was supposed to be Nintendo's great leap forward, the next big step for them. But now, people aren't even sure if they want to even get on the ride in the first place. Let's break it all down. When the details first leaked, people were ready. The new screen offered 1080p or even 2K resolution at 120 Hz. When the Switch 2 was docked, it was aiming for a native 4K resolution at 60 FPS. That alone would have been a huge upgrade. But then, we found out that classic Switch games were getting major overhauls. We're talking about enhanced visuals, faster loading, more stable frame rates, and not to mention a new Kirby Air Ride that's aiming to revive one of Nintendo's most beloved and underrated franchises, one of my favorites to be honest. The hype was actually real, but the pre-order pages started leaking, and then content creators like myself, tech reviewers, everyone started counting the days, but then the price was revealed. The base model was priced at a whopping $449.99, and the version bundled with the new Mario Kart World is $499.99 USD. For a lot of people, that was the moment the dream kind of cracked, so to speak. Like I said, when it comes to the prices of gaming, at least in the modern era, when you have higher performance, it's going to be more expensive. This was a given. This is the first time Nintendo is actually trying to be on par, more or less, with the high-end consoles. Especially given that the PlayStation 5, for instance, still doesn't have an official, like, you can't take it with you on the go, so to speak, like you do with the Switch where it's docked or on the go, and then that is the console with all the games on it. But with the performance they were offering, I understand why it was going to get more expensive. Still, though, it kind of does change the idea of where Nintendo stands. This feels now more like a luxury gaming company rather than an affordable one, but in the future, that might be the cost of things just to, to make the games and the performance happen at that cost. It might just be exactly, the way things have to be, so to speak. Just as fans were bracing for impact, Nintendo pulled back. Retailers started pulling pre-order pages just like that. Then, on Friday, it was officially confirmed. Nintendo is postponing pre-orders due to impending tariffs. But don't worry, the console is still launching on the same day. That's not changing. Just the timing of when exactly you can lock in your order. The second that 449 number hit the timeline, that price that was listed for it, the backlash was instant. And the 499 bundle didn't help. In fact, if you went onto the Nintendo Treehouse streams that were showcasing the games, the entirety of the YouTube chat for the entire 4 to 5 hour duration was smattered with people saying, drop the prices, lower the prices, and of course that one Giga Chad saying raise the price. But the entire backlash was there, and it was very, very present. And it's something you really had never seen for Nintendo as a company. Maybe other companies had that issue, but Nintendo was one of the few that never really had that kind of response from its consumers. IGN called the price surprisingly aggressive for a company known for affordability, and honestly, that sums it up pretty well. It's not like the Wii or the OG Switch. It's a different approach, and the fans are obviously noticing. I do think, being a hardcore Nintendo fan when I was younger, you grow up, your parents buy you, your first console, your first handheld, and it's nice too. One of the big things I would say was the fact that the consoles were usually cheap. The games themselves weren't exactly cheap. I remember always paying $50 for a new game. Like even for the GameCube, for the Wii, for the Wii U, it started going up. For the Switch, it went up to $60. And I understand, like, the games were good, but you would offset the affordability of the console with the consistent pricing of the games. But even new games and the new console started offering, the Virtual Console, Nintendo Switch Online, indie games you could download in Nintendo Store. And depending on what your taste was, more or less you would get what you got with the proper bang for your buck. And now that I'm the age of 31, I'm a streamer, of course my priorities change. But I do imagine for a lot of the casual audiences now, having that price tag on the premier new console for Nintendo, especially at a young age, that's going to hit the parents' wallets pretty much. I do still think it's going to sell a bunch of, obviously a bunch of copies. There's going to be a bunch of units moved by Nintendo. But if you want my prediction right now, just given the outlook of things, this is going to underperform compared to the Switch one almost for a fact. both in revenue and in sales. I do think that's going to happen. So let's talk possibilities. Nintendo's hit pause for a reason, and there's a few ways this could still shake out. So, for one, the good ending. The good ending would be they're using this delay to pivot, right? Maybe they're going to renegotiate manufacturing, they're going to shift shipping routes, they're going to get ahead of tariff costs, and they're going to manage to drop the price to $399 or $429. That would massively ease pushback from the public and get a lot of people back on board. If it was priced even at $429, I think people would be like, all right, this is much better. Number 2 is the balance path. The balance path would be to stay the course. The base model still stays at $449, the Mario Kart World Bundle at $499, no major extras, no downgrades. They just kind of ride out the criticism and bank on strong launch titles and then fan loyalty to carry them through. I do think this is going to be what's going to happen anyway. And number 3 is the nightmare route. The nightmare route would be the tariffs hitting really, really hard and all the prices of these consoles, unfortunately, for the US at least, going way up. We're talking a bump to $529 or more. At that point, Nintendo might try to soften the blow by including digital packets, maybe like a classic titles, a few months of Nintendo Switch Online for free, something like a modern version of the 3DS Ambassador program. But still, a price hike at launch, given all this negative feedback already, would be insanely rough. Look, when it comes to their games, I do love Nintendo games. The company, especially given with how they treat the Smash community, I definitely have my critiques, and I will stand on those critiques to the day I die. But when it comes to the games, I grew up with them, right? Nintendo games gave me the taste in things that I do, and was honestly the reason I became a pro gamer. Of course, to that I owe the games that I played a lot. But man, this is not the company we grew up with. Like, I think it's officially shifted now. The Switch 2 has the potential to be an absolute banger of a console, but basically right now it feels like you're kind of walking a tightrope on consumer sentiment. It went from being like the company and the console that was like, this is for everyone is here, we're gonna make sure everyone gets a chance to play our games, to now it kind of does feel like a premium product. I mean, even with the Switch 1, you had the Nintendo Switch Lite, which was offered, right? You couldn't dock it, but it was still a handheld version of the console. You could still play all your games on it. You could still have fun, and it was a way, way cheaper price point for a lot of people. Given, even now, there's no way they're not seeing the critique from the people. I think Nintendo is going to offer sort of like a baseline cheaper model, a lighter model for a lot of those people who don't want to pay the premium on this. Even Apple, when they drop a new flagship iPhone, they every once in a while drop an iPhone C or whatever it is, which is just a model with less specs, you know, less moving parts, a little less flair for it, but still you get a very powerful smartphone in a sense, especially with new chips. And I think with Nintendo doing this now, if I was them, yeah, you want to basically package this Switch. I wish it had the OLED screen, but even that, from what I was seeing online, it's a way better LCD screen than the original Switch had. I do think what they should do, just to gain back a lot of consumer sentiment, is maybe offer a free trial of Nintendo Switch Online. If they hike the price at all at this point, it's going to be like Armageddon for the company. I feel it's going to be an incredibly bad selling console. But if they're going to keep the price but just move the pre-order date, which I think is what's going to happen, I would imagine it's still going to be a successful console. It'll still be profitable, but I don't think it'll reach the heights of the Wii or the Switch, in my opinion. And the Wii U sort of had this issue where, you know, the consumers weren't sure what the Wii U exactly was going to be. They weren't sure what the tablet was for. They weren't sure if it was a portable console or not. Communication, I think, was the biggest reason the Wii U failed. When it comes to the Switch 2, they did a way better job of communication. You know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a full upgrade to the Switch we know and love, a home console which you can carry with you on the go. But now this console, one of the biggest selling points, I believe, is 120 hertz. But the funniest part is, the way Nintendo translates their consoles and their information is with directs, which are locked at 60 FPS on Twitch and YouTube, and so there's no way of actually seeing what this console can do unless you go see it in person. So if I was them and they want to make it successful, I'd put as many demos and as many, you know, places to try it out and demo it as possible. And I do think when it comes to certain Smash tournaments, at least, that have licenses, Nintendo has often in the past brought those, you know, demo experiences, like a booth that they have with giant, like 5 different stations and a big line of people there where you can actually try it. And I do think that's what what it's going to boil down to. People need to put their hands on it first to see if it's actually worth the price. But anyways, let me know in the comments below, is $449 too much for you? Would you still buy the Switch 2 if the upgrades are as good as promised? Or are you waiting for a price drop or even skipping it entirely? I'm going to keep you posted as it all plays out. Anyways, like the video, sub to the channel, share it, do whatever you want to do. comment, and let's hope Nintendo figures it out before things get worse. As always, thank you for watching.